Do you know what's worse than heartbreak? Feeling like you were never even important enough to break in the first place. That hollow ache of being treated like an option. While deep down you crave to be his priority. But what if I told you, the very thing that made him overlook you could become the reason he can never stop thinking about you? You know, there's this moment we don't talk about enough. The moment when you realize that you've been living as someone's option. It's not like they came out and said it. They didn't sit you down and say, "Hey, you're not that important to me," but you felt it in the way they took hours, or even days, to reply, in how plans with you always felt like a backup rather than something they were excited about, in how their words sounded sweet, but their actions never backed them up. And it's in that quiet ache in your chest where you ask yourself, am I really not enough? That's the kind of pain that sticks. Because deep down, you weren't asking for the world. You weren't asking for fairy tales or grand gestures. You just wanted to feel seen, to feel chosen. And instead, you got crumbs. Moments of attention that were just enough to keep you there, but never enough to feel secure. And it hurts. God, it hurts because it's not just about them. It's about you starting to believe the lie that maybe you weren't worth more. But let me tell you something that will change the way you look at this forever. The pain of being treated like an option isn't here to destroy you. It's here to wake you up. To shake you out of the trance you've been in, where you thought someone else's inability to value you said something about your value. See, when someone treats you like an option, it's not because you lack something. It's because they do. They lack the depth, the vision, or even the emotional maturity to recognize what's standing in front of them. But here's the twist. The moment they showed you their true colors, they handed you the greatest gift of all. A mirror, a chance to see yourself, not through their cloudy lens, but through your own eyes. And maybe for the first time, you need to stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, why did I stay when my heart was telling me I deserved more? I'm not saying this to blame you. I'm saying it because this is your power. The second you take responsibility for your presence in that dynamic is the second you take your power back. Because let's be honest, we've all been there, hoping, wishing, waiting for them to wake up one morning and finally realize what they've got. That somehow, if we just love them harder, give a little more, be a little more patient, they'll change. But here's the hard truth. People don't suddenly value what they've been allowed to take for granted. They value what they have to earn. And that starts with you. It starts with you deciding right here, right now, that you're done sitting in rooms where your worth isn't recognized, that you're no longer available for someone who only calls when it's convenient, who only loves in half measures, that you are no longer asking to be chosen. You're choosing yourself, because the moment you do that, when you stand up, walk away and close that door with grace, is the moment everything changes. It's the moment they realize the access they had to you wasn't infinite. That your love wasn't some faucet they could turn on whenever they felt thirsty for attention. And while they may not say it, they'll feel it. That quiet, gnawing sense of loss when they realize you're not there anymore. But this isn't about making them feel that loss. It's about you finally breaking free from the lie that their love, or lack of it, defined your value. It never did. You were always enough. You were always worthy of being someone's first choice. You were always meant to be loved fully, deeply, and without hesitation. So don't waste another second trying to convince someone to see your light. Step into it yourself. And the beautiful thing is this. When you do, you don't even have to slam the door behind you. You just walk away so quietly, so powerfully, that the echo of your absence is louder than any words you could ever say. And when you walk away, you won't just leave behind someone who made you feel like an option. You'll leave behind the version of yourself who ever believed you were one. You know what keeps us stuck in situations where we're treated like an option? It's that tiny, desperate voice inside saying, If I just do more, if I just give more, if I just hang on a little longer, maybe he'll finally see my worth. But here's the truth. The more you fight for a place in the life of someone who's already showing you that you're not their priority, the further you drift from your own value. Every unanswered text, every broken promise, every time you swallow your needs to accommodate his moods, it chips away at the quiet knowing inside you that you deserve more. We keep trying to prove ourselves to people who are too distracted or too comfortable or too selfish to notice. And the more they take us for granted, the more we double down, as though our effort might somehow make up for their indifference. But listen closely. This is a power, is not love. This is a power imbalance. And as long as you stay in it, you're telling him, it's okay to treat me this way. I'll still be here. The moment you decide to detach, not in anger, not in revenge, but in quiet self-respect, is the moment everything starts to shift. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring about yourself more than you care about convincing him of your worth. And it's in that moment, when you step back, that he deals the absence of what he didn't even realize he had. Because here's the thing about people, we don't value what we're sure will never leave. As long as you're the one always reaching out, always forgiving, always showing up first, he never has to wonder about losing you. He never has to face the reality of life without your attention, your support, your warmth. But the second you stop showing up for someone who couldn't even meet you halfway, you create a space where curiosity, regret, and realization can creep in. Your silence is not weakness, it's magnetic. When you're no longer constantly available, he's forced to sit with his choices. He'll notice the lack of your good morning texts, the empty space where your energy used to fill his day, the sudden quiet when you're no longer trying to fix what he broke. And in that silence, he's going to ask himself questions he never bothered to consider before. Did I take her for granted? Was I too casual with someone who actually cared? What if she doesn't come back? But here's the most powerful part. Detaching isn't about him at all. It's about you reclaiming your peace. It's about saying, I'm no longer available for anything less than I deserve. It's about realizing that your time, your love, your effort, they're precious, and you don't hand them out to people who haven't earned the right to hold them. I know it's hard. Detachment feels like ripping your own heart out because you've been so conditioned to measure your worth by his attention. But I promise you this, the pain of stepping back is temporary. The pain of staying in a situation where you're undervalued lasts forever. When you detach, you give yourself the chance to heal. You stop pouring your energy into someone else's validation and start redirecting it into your own growth. You begin to see that his inability to prioritize you was never a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of his limitations. And once you see that clearly, you'll wonder why you ever tried so hard to convince him. The irony? That's the moment he notices. That's the moment he feels the shift. Because no man forgets the woman who quietly walked away instead of begging to stay. No man forgets the woman who had the courage to say, if you can't choose me fully, you don't get to have me at all. So let him wonder where you went. Let him sit with the weight of losing access to you, not because you're playing games, but because you're finally playing for keeps, with your own heart. And when you detach, you don't just take back your power. You become the kind of woman who's unforgettable, not because you stayed, but because you were brave enough to leave. You know, so often we think that if we can just give enough, love enough, and prove our worth enough, we'll finally be chosen. We believe that pouring more of ourselves into someone will make them see us differently. But here's the truth. No one ever remembers the person who tried to win their love. They remember the person who didn't need to. When you stop focusing on making him love you and start focusing on becoming someone whose energy is impossible to replicate, everything changes. Think about it. What makes someone unforgettable? It isn't because they sent the most texts, said yes to everything, or were always available. It's because when you were around them, you felt something rare. They carried themselves with a sense of presence, a sense of wholeness that couldn't be manufactured or faked. That's the energy you need to tap into now, not because it'll make him come running Baz, though ironically it often does, but because it creates a gravenergy that creates a gravitational pull. When you become a woman who's deeply passionate about her life, who protects her peace, and who honors her own boundaries, you shift the dynamic completely. Suddenly, you're not sitting around wondering when he'll choose you, because you've already chosen yourself. You become magnetic the moment you stop orbiting someone else's world and start building your own. Your glow doesn't come from being you show up by him. It comes from the way you show up for yourself. It's in the way you laugh without needing validation, the way you say no without fear, and the way you create experiences that fill your soul rather than drain it. He won't miss you because of the dinners you cooked, or the hours you spent waiting for his calls, or the times you bent over backward to accommodate him. He'll miss you because you were the one person who made him feel alive, and not because your own aliveness was congealous, but because your own aliveness was contagious. Men don't forget women who challenge them to rise. They don't forget women who aren't afraid to walk away if they're not being met with the love they deserve. That's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing and start living as though your worth isn't tied to whether or not he chooses you, you become unforgettable. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about actually shifting your focus, about finding the things that light you up, the dreams you put on hold, the parts of yourself you silence to fit into his world. It's about reconnecting with those pieces until your own life becomes so rich and full that you wouldn't trade it for breadcrumbs of attention anymore. When he realizes he can't replicate the way you made him feel, because it was never about what you did for him, but about who you are. He'll remember you. He'll remember the spark, the strength, the sense of calm confidence you carried. And that memory will haunt him, not because you're trying to make it haunt him, but because you became the one thing he can't replace. And here's the beautiful twist. By the time he does, you won't care anymore, because by then you'll have become the person who doesn't wait to be chosen. You'll have become the person who knows she's unforgettable, whether or not he ever figures it out. Forget trying to make him regret. Forget the late-night scenarios you've played out in your head where he sees you with someone else and suddenly realizes what he lost. Forget the mental tug-of-war where you imagine him scrolling through your photos, heart pounding with jealousy, wishing he had treated you better. That's not power. That's still giving him a starring role in your life, a role he never earned in the first place. Real power isn't in proving a point to him. It's in reaching a place where his validation isn't even a part of the equation anymore. Because here's the truth. If he made you feel like an option, it's not your job to stay and teach him your worth. It's not your mission to hold on tighter, to give more, or to somehow convince him to see you differently. The only thing you owe yourself is the courage to step back and redirect all that energy inward. That's the moment your story changes. Revenge might feel tempting. You want him to hurt like you hurt. You want him to lie awake at night, replaying every moment, haunted by the memory of losing you. But revenge keeps you tethered to him. It locks you in a cycle where he's still at the center of your thoughts, dictating your moves. Evolution, on the other hand, is quiet. It's not about showing him anything. It's about becoming so whole, so fulfilled, so radiant, that whether he notices or not becomes irrelevant. That's when you win. Not because you beat him at his own game, but because you left the game entirely. It starts small. You stop checking if he's viewed your stories. You stop crafting posts designed to make him wondered. You stop replaying conversations, wondering what you could have said differently to make him stay. Instead, you pour that energy into yourself, your body, your mind, your passions, your friendships, your dreams. You start remembering who you were before him. You reconnect with the version of you that was vibrant and unafraid, the version of you that didn't need anyone to feel alive. And as you do, something incredible happens. He starts to fade, not because he wasn't significant, but because you're expanding beyond the space he once occupied in your heart. You realize his opinion doesn't define you, his attention doesn't validate you, and his absence doesn't diminish you. You begin to understand that the love you were seeking from him is the love you needed to give yourself all along. When you glow up, not just on the outside, but on the inside, not you become a force he can't ignore. Not because you're trying to be seen, but because you've become the kind of woman whose presence is unforgettable. Your boundaries are clear. From her inner place is magnetic. You no longer operate from scraps of action, clinging to scraps of affection. You know to place of affection. You know your worth now. You've embodied it so fully that even if he were to come back, the version of you that tolerated his bare minimum doesn't exist anymore. That's the ultimate plot twist. The same woman who would have once answered his late night texts, who would have jumped through hoops to please him, who would have settled for maybe instead of demanding, hell yes, doesn't live here anymore. And when he does notice, and trust me, he will, it won't matter to you. You've outgrown the version of yourself that needed his attention to feel whole. This isn't about making him regret. It's about becoming so unshakably secure in who you are that regret is inevitable for him. Because here's the secret. No one forgets the person who loved them deeply but loved themselves more. No one forgets that could have stayed but chose peace instead. That's what leaves an imprint. Not the games, not the manipulation, not the revenge fantasies. It's your evanescy, not the revenge fantasies. It's your evolution. It's your quiet decision to choose yourself. So let him wonder, let him scroll, let him hear your name and feel that pang in his chest. That's not your focus anymore. Your focus is your glow, your growth, your joy. Your focus is creating a life so full and so rich that whether he remembers you or not is completely irrelevant, because the woman you are becoming, she doesn't chase, she doesn't wait, she doesn't settle. She knows she is the prize, and that's why she will never be forgotten. You know what's funny? The people we want the most are often the ones we give the most power to. We bend, we shrink, we compromise, thinking if we just do a little more, they'll finally see our worth. But here's the paradoxa. The more you make someone the center of your world, the easier it is for them to take you for granted. The more available you are, the less they value what's right in front of them. And you know why? Because you're not showing them your value. You're showing them your fear of losing them. There's something irresistibly powerful about a person who knows they can walk away. Someone who loves deeply, yes, but who loves themselves even more. That's the kind of energy that lingers in someone's mind. Not desperation, not trying to prove your worth. The quiet confidence, the kind of confidence that says, if you don't see what's in front of you, I'm not here to convince you. When you pull away, not out of anger, not out of manipulation, but because you've realized you deserve better, you change the entire dynamic. It's in your absence that people feel the weight of your presence. When you stop calling, stop texting, stop trying to fix what's broken, you give them the space to sit with what they've lost. And here's the truth. If someone ever made you feel like an option, it's because they believed you'd never leave. They thought they could give you breadcrumbs and you'd still stay at the table. The moment you show you're not afraid to walk away, you flip the script completely. See, he might not realize it at first. In fact, he might even think he's fine without you. But then little moments start to hit. Maybe he hears a song that reminds him of you. Maybe he scrolls past your photo and wonders why you seem so happy, so at peace, so untouchable now. That's when the curiosity begins. That's when the mind starts replaying moments, your laughter, your energy, the way you made him feel seen, not because you begged for his attention, but because you're no longer trying to give it. And here's the thing, men don't forget the woman who loved them but loved herself more. He won't remember you as the girl who cried and pleaded for him to choose her. He'll remember you as the woman who could have stayed but didn't. The woman who said, "I care about you, but I care about me more." That kind of strength isn't just rare, it's unforgettable. So stop asking, "How do I make him regret losing me?" That's the wrong question. The real question is, how do I become the kind of person whose energy is unforgettable? And the answer isn't in chasing, proving, or punishing. It's in building a life so full and vibrant that anyone who's not ready to step up is automatically left behind. You can't control whether someone chooses you, but you can control whether you allow yourself to stay where you're not chosen. And the second you choose yourself, you become the one he can't stop thinking about. Not because you played games, but because you finally stopped playing his. The woman who can walk away will always be remembered, not because she was unattainable, but because she didn't make her worth ever negotiable. For that is the kind of power no one can ever forget.